rusted, in need of repair, guarded on either side by a moss-covered stone raven on a crumbling pillar, parked beneath the old ash tree and looked up. "Hello, Ig," he said. Even now, and even for Alex, it was a magical tree. 400 years old, 30 metres tall, and almost as wide across, it stood by the entrance of Ravenwood like a guardian spirit. As a boy, Leo had named it Yggdrasil, like the tree of life in Viking myths. "Because Vikings used to live here," Leo had said, "and it is full of life." As if to prove a point, a raven had taken off from one of the top branches in a great beating of wings, and from then on it had become Yggdrasil for everybody. Peering up, Alex saw that the platform their father had built for his brothers and him to play on when they were boys was still there, defying all safety regulations, about 5 metres up. A frayed rope ladder hung along the trunk. Just for a moment, Alex considered climbing it. He shook his head. He had long given up climbing trees. Instead, he got out of the car, opened the back door, took Bea out of her seat, and went in search of his brother. Years later, Leo would enjoy describing the first time he saw Bea at Ravenwood. "The mess," he would say. "The roof smashed, tiles everywhere, shattered glass, broken branches, and in the middle of it all, like a miniature queen, Bea gobbling it all up with her eyes on stalks." "I was not like a queen, and I do not gobble," Bea would say, tossing her long red hair. "I picked her up," Leo would say, "and I carried her across the garden to look at the sea. It was one of those grey days, you know, when there seems to be no light, but then the sun came out, and the sea was turned to gold, and little Miss Madam here, hardly bigger than a kitten, stretched out her arms like she was saying, 'All of this is mine.' Even then, she knew exactly what she wanted." Back then, the brothers argued, tedious, grown-up arguments about insurance papers and new kitchens. Alex said, "If only you'd cut down that tree." Leo said, "How was I to know it would fall?" And so on and so forth. It isn't really interesting. What is interesting is that while Leo and Alex argued, out on the tree-smashed terrace, Bea gazed at the clouds scooting across the washed-out sky and tilted her head to the song of a blackbird. That when they moved indoors and Leo laid her on the living room rug, she watched entranced as a spider spun its web between 2 ceiling beams. And that when at last the arguing was done and Alex tried to put her back in the car, she refused to be put in her seat, arching her back and screaming until her face went purple. "What am I supposed to do?" asked Alex, close to tears himself. "Here, give her to me," said Leo. Bea stopped crying as soon as she was in Leo's arms. Leo laughed and said, "I think she wants to stay." It was the perfect solution, Leo liked to say. Alex so tired, Ingrid not well, the childminder also sick. Him all alone in the big house. "Just for a few days," Alex said to Ingrid on the phone, "until everything is better." "But what does Leo know about babies?" Ingrid worried. "About as much as I do," said Alex, which was almost true. "And you're sure she really likes it there?" "I think she really does." "Just until everything is better then," said Ingrid after a pause. And Bea stayed. Bea cooed as Alex took the bag of baby things out of the car. She gurgled as he drove away. Leo laid her on a blanket on the terrace near where the tree had fallen, and she pumped her arms and legs like a miniature gymnast. He walked away to continue his clearing. She began to cry again. Leo tried to prepare a bottle of milk in the microwave, but the bottle exploded. He tried to feed Bea apple sauce, but she spat it out. He gave her a rusk, but she hurled it away. Clearly, babies were more complicated than he had thought. In the end, he drove to the village for help, with Bea wedged between his legs because he couldn't work out how to fit the car seat. And this was the best bit. The elderly volunteers who worked in the shop were fond of Leo, whom they had known all his life. They did their best for him. "Have you tried changing her now?"